Hey, so after your, wait, it's after the paint. Yeah, okay, never mind. So we're gonna actually start the code now for our application. I first want to start with the host indicators section. So if you go back, I explained what that is. So when you load in, you want to right click on your form1.cs and you want to click view code. And here, this is where you're going to be able to manipulate your form. So go into your design, and if you ever close it on accident, you can just right click in here and click view designer and all the way around. So go to toolbox and we're gonna look for button. Look for button, drag and drop that into your form, and make it as big as you want. I'm just gonna keep it like this. And go right click on your application, your solution application, or sorry, your malware analysis, the title right below the solution, and then click and then hover over add, and then look for form Windows Forms. So you're gonna click form Windows Forms, and you're just gonna name it whatever you want. For me, I'm gonna name this host indicators. I misspelled indicators. And you should see a form now called host indicators.cs. Now in your form, um, I want you to actually go ahead and make another one. Go to add, form Windows Forms, and call this dynamic analysis, because I want to have a dynamic analysis and a static analysis section. So call this dynamic analysis.cs. In your dynamic analysis.cs, go ahead and look for button again, drag and drop, and then just like right click on this button and make this right side a little bigger. Click properties, left click, hover over properties, click it, and you want to change the name because it's better. I like changing the name. I'm gonna call this host indicators page, and go to the event clicker. It should be this kind of lightning. Yeah, it looks like a lightning bolt. So just click on that and go down to where you see click and just call this whatever you want. I'm gonna call this host page or host end page. Um, and we want, when this button is clicked on the dynamic analysis page, we want it to pull up the host indicators page. So you want to make a new instance of the host indicators page. So say host indicators and then call it whatever. I'm gonna call it page is equal to new. So we're making a new instance of the class, because if you go into host indicators design and you look at the code, or sorry, go to host indicators.cs here, go to designer.cs. It's pretty much an instance, and you're just making a new instance of that. So host indicators, then the reference to the new instance, I'm naming it page, equals new host indicators, and you wanna, yeah, you wanna just call it, and then you wanna say page.show. Yeah. So, and close everything up except your form 1 design. So in your form 1 design, go to the button that you dragged and dropped there and call it open dynamic page or open dynamic analysis page. Very long name for a button. You probably want a better naming convention than me, but yeah, you can search up the C# naming convention if you'd like. And then go to the events again, and then click event clicker. We're gonna call this open dynamic page, and we want it so when this button is pressed, we want the dynamic analysis page open. So same thing again, dynamic analysis page, I'm gonna call it again, equals new dynamic analysis and I'm just gonna do page.show. And yeah, so, and go to the form 1 button. You can actually change what it says. So right now it says button 1, but if you go to text, which is in this section, the property section, you can change this. So I'm gonna call this dynamic analysis page. So, and I'm gonna make the button a little big. It's not gonna look like this in the final form, but yeah, you can also make this a little bigger. I'm gonna do that. So dynamic analysis page. And in your dynamic analysis.cs, click View Designer. Go to this button and change the text to oh yeah oh yeah. Just change the text to host indicators monitoring, or just host indicators for now. So I just want to see what this looks like. Okay, sorry for the abrupt cut, but I just want to show what this looks like. So when the user loads the application up, they're going to click dynamic analysis page. Then they're going to see, I'm going to add more options here. There's going to be like network indicators, and then there's host indicators right now. When they click host indicators, they're going to go to the host indicators page, and this is what we'll be working on for the pretty much the entire video. Okay. Okay, so we're going to actually start programming the host indicators page right now. So just close everything up. Close everything except the host indicators page. So that's the host indicators.cs. Make that a little bigger so we can see the application more. Yeah, so I guess where we can start is so first we want to allow file input. The reason is because I want the user to be able to input the malware file, execute it, and monitor it. So first, we want to do that. So go to your toolbox and look for listbox. And just, oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, Control Z. Just look for listbox, regular listbox. Drop that in, and it should say listbox. And make this a little longer, like cover the whole page, I guess. Yeah, put it a little down here. And if you like, you can change the name for it. That's what I'm gonna do. Oh, never mind. Listbox doesn't have a text spot for it. Whatever. So now for this listbox to work, you need to actually add some code in there. Okay. So I'm gonna show you how I found out how to do this. I actually searched up file drag and drop Windows C#, and the Windows actually has a documentation for it, and it says provide file drag and drop functionality in Visual C# application. And as you can see, it says a listbox control is used as the destination of the file drag and drop procedure. There's basically drag enter, there is drag drop, and what drag enter is pretty much when you are dragging the file and you're hovering it over the application, and drag drop is when you drop it in there. So let me open like this. When you're hovering it, this is drag enter, and when you drop it in, that's the actual drag drop. And they pretty much give us a whole the entire programming that we need. We don't have to do it ourselves or anything. So click view code if you don't already have that showing. And we have our list box here. You want to go to events and you want to name your drag enter whatever. But actually I'm going to change the name for this. I'm going to change it to file input. Go to your drag enter. I'm going to call this file input drag enter, and for the drag drop, I'm gonna call this file input drag drop. We're basically just doing whatever the documentation is telling us to do. So you see in the drag enter, we do this. So just copy this into the drag enter. What this is gonna do is gonna actually allow us to have the drag and drop functionality, and we can manipulate whatever we want. So we can have certain things happen when they drag it in. We can have certain things happen when they drop it inside. So yeah, this is just basic functionality right here, nothing important. And list box, call this whatever you call your list box. If you remember, I called mine file input. And here it says after the initialize component. So go after the initialize component and drop that in. And just call this whatever you called your list box. So that's drop. This is enter. And file input. So now go ahead and run the debugger. Make sure everything works fine. Go to your host indicators page. Here is the list box, and try to actually input something in there. Oof, okay. So, oh, I forgot, sorry. So go to your host indicators .cs and go to properties, and you want to actually allow the drop. So allow drop, click it twice and put it to true. Now run the debugger and try to drop something in there. Right, you see it works just fine. But you see there's a problem. It shows the file path twice, and that's because the documentation it's good, but it's kind of weird. It just shows it twice. So what we can do is we can go down here, and instead of adding it just in a for loop, we can say if, I believe we could, if okay, is file input, yeah, okay, so we could say if file input dot items dot contains s0, or say if not, if it doesn't contain it. And I'm gonna explain this in a second if it works fine. So if it doesn't, okay, and then run the debugger to make sure it works, no errors. Go ahead and drag and drop that in there. So yeah, and now it only shows it once. Basically what I'm doing is I'm saying if file input, our list box, doesn't contain that first input, and if you know code, 0 is the first element. So if it doesn't contain that first element, it's gonna actually add that in there. So now it's only gonna show it once. And for the file drag enter, so yeah, and another problem we have right now, if you run the debugger, is it actually allows for multiple file drops, which we don't want, because we want the user to enter one malware file, and we want to run just that file. So what we can do is we can go to our drag enter, and we can make a conditional. We can say if file input dot items dot count is over 1, we can just say message box dot show only one file input at a time, and make sure you end the line. I don't know why I always do that, but yeah. And this should only allow for one file input. So run it in debug mode. Go to your host indicators. Oh, don't open Microsoft Edge, and try to drag and drop 2 files in there. It should not work. Okay, it's still working, and the message box isn't even showing. That items.count. So maybe we could say if file input that counts over 1, message box that show. We could say else if. You could say else if not count and cannot be to operand type int. Okay, if okay, if file input items that count over 1, generic input. Okay, so it's probably this not working. We could try putting it in both places, which is not that good, but it's worth a try. So one file. Nope. Okay. 2 files. Okay, and it's still doing it. So that's good. At least the message box is showing. Maybe we can put this into a big statement, big else if statement. So we can say else if file input dot items dot count is equal to 1. And we could just wrap this entire thing in here. So we could try that. And make sure you run it in debug mode. I keep running it normally. Host indicators. Put that in. Okay, so now it's not even allowing file input. Okay, so if it's equal to 0, say that. If it's equal to 0, run that. Host indicators. Drop that in, and this shouldn't work. Yeah. So there you go. So now the user is not actually allowed to enter more than one file in. And I guess we can get rid of this conditional right here. Okay, and just make this a regular if statement. Oof, okay, I messed that up. Just a regular if statement. Then remove this. So if it's over 1, and I guess we can wait, yeah. So I guess we can put this over. Why is this giving an error? Copy. Then just make this an if statement maybe? Yeah, and then put this over here. So let's try that. So one file, and if we try to hover that in, no message box. Okay, that's odd. Message box show. We could say if it's equal to 1. Yeah, that's where I was going wrong. I'm gonna explain this in a second. Sorry if it's confusing. There you go. Is this showing it twice? Okay, I'll fix that in a second. So basically, what we're doing is we're saying if file input.items.count, so it's going to count all the items in our list box called file input. If it's equal to 0, so if there's nothing in there, it's going to allow us to add that file in. It's going to allow the user to add that file in. And if it's equal to 1, when they're dragging it over the program, it's going to message box and say only one file at a time. Okay, I'm back. So we still have that problem where the message box is showing twice. I'll show it right now. So go ahead and drag and drop a file in here and then do it again. And you see it shows twice, and it's kind of annoying. It's like a bug. So I'm gonna try to fix that. I said bool showed equals false if not showed, and that's not working. And I had to actually Google this to find out why, but pretty much the reason is that this function is being called file drag enter when the person is drag and dropping that again. So it already checks this condition one time, and then it has to check the condition again, and it's basically within this, I guess. Uh, it's being called twice. So what we can do is we can declare it as a private method. So we can say bool showed. This is pretty much declaring it globally. So what happens is that this is actually every time this function is called, but whenever this showed method is being used, it's actually, and you want to call this actually private bool showed. Basically this instance is being saved across the entire page or across the entire application. Pretty much, it's being defined globally instead of in a stack frame. Because if you knew assembly, if you don't know, basically every function has their own stack frame. So basically every time that function is called, it's going to do that again. But here, if it's defined globally, that instance is going to be saved throughout the whole application. So what's going to happen here is it's going to say if not showed, so it's false. It's going to do this, and when it is done, we can say it equals to true. So now, after it turns true across the entire application, even if this function is called again and that stack frame, a new stack frame is created, regardless, the instance is going to be saved to true. So if I run this, it should work. Post indicators, drag that in there, drag another one, and you see it only shows once. So after this, I'm gonna actually start designing probably the main components of the application, or the host indicators section. So yeah. Hey, so I'm gonna continue making the application now. So we have the file input. Now just go to your toolbox and search for a label right here, and then go to the label's properties, and then look for something with maximum put locked to fall. Nope. Okay, it's not that. Auto size, yeah, put auto size to false so we can actually make this longer. And go ahead and change the text to input or drag and drop desired file below, and just put this on top of the file input section. And I put fire instead of file, so file. Now go to your toolbox and look for another button. Just put a button here, put it at the bottom if you like. I'm gonna put it right here and make it a little bigger, and I'm gonna go to the text and I'm gonna call this execute file, and go to the text and put execute file also, or whatever you like. I'm just gonna put execute file. Now I want this button, if this button is pressed, I want it to execute the file path above. So yeah, what we want to do is we want to check to see if file input is actually empty. So if file input equals null, we're gonna show a message box, and you can say like no file input detected. Please drag and drop in the field above. So now if a file is not actually in the field, I'll show that right now. If this button is pressed and there's no, okay, so that doesn't work. If file input equals maybe we can check if not file, if file input dot items dot count is equal to 0, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So that's done. Now we want to actually be able to execute that file path. So what we can do is, alright, sorry for the cut. Malware analysis vid. I tried something and it did not work, so I'm gonna try something else. I defined a private process up here called file exec. And okay, so for your file input string. Okay, so go ahead and define a private string up here. Private string, because we want to save the instance to the whole class. So private string file path, and then down here, I guess you want to say file path is equal to s0. Oof, we can't do that down here. Okay, sorry. We want to do it up. We want to do it up here. So we can just say just under. I don't know why full path is. Oh, it's file path. Okay, so file path is equal to s, the first element of s. Because remember, we're only gonna be working with the first element. Any element after that, we have that message box that doesn't allow more than one input. So file path is gonna equal to that first element. And I believe we can just say this process that we made up here. We can say file exec is equal to system dot diagnostics dot process dot start, and we can just input file path, I believe. So if you run this in debug mode and okay, it's not loading. Alright, just drop whatever file and try to execute it, and it should execute that file. So yeah, that's just some picture out from my stats class. Stupid. But yeah, so whatever you input, it should execute it. Maybe we can try. Oh, okay, everything's frozen. I'm not really sure why. That's odd. Okay, so there's clearly no problem with the application. Maybe we can say await task.run and make sure you say private async void. Await task.run. Go down, do that, and then end this here. Oh, it should be task capitalized. Okay, await task run. That's capitalized too. Okay, await task run. Maybe it's what is it complaining about? Expected. Okay. Let me try to Google it or just Firefox it. Await task run, and I'll explain what it does in a second. I just have to actually find it. Await task run. Oh, I see. Okay. So this has to be like that. Await task run. Oof. And I forgot the. Yeah. Okay. That this here and that there. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna start this process in the background. So our main UI isn't gonna get frozen or affected. And I'll show this in a second. Just drag and drop whatever file you want, execute it. Now we should be able to actually interact with the UI still, and it shouldn't cause any error. Even if you close it, it shouldn't cause any error. So yeah, pretty much it's just gonna, this is just gonna, actually it's better if I Google it. So await C#. It basically just runs it asynchronously. It suspends evaluation until the, why am I so bad at explaining? Suspends evaluation of the, damn, how to use the, what does async C# do? These are horrible explanations. It literally just it just waits for this task to complete before like pretty much any code at the bottom runs, but it does it in the background. So we're gonna actually be able to manipulate the UI and stuff while this runs in the background. So it basically just runs on a separate thread, I guess you can say. Um, so now that that's done, go ahead to your indicators page, look for another button, drag and drop that in there, and make that like same length and width as the other one if you'd like. However, design it however you like. Go to your button, and actually, I'm not sure why I call this execute file. Just rename it to something better, like execute file. Something, yeah, that looks better. And this one, just say like remove file input. Go to your event clicker, and then say remove file. Okay. Alright, so I tried something. It actually did not work at all. But yeah, so you want to just remove the file input. I assume we can say file input is equal to null, and we could say file input dot items dot remove full path, which I actually cannot access, which is weird because, oh, it's file path. Okay, I keep saying file. Yeah. So maybe file path. Yeah. And maybe this might work. This might work. Host indicators page. Drag and drop a file, and I got an error. To an instance of an object. File input was null. Okay, so maybe let's delete that first. And then, okay, there you go. So, oh, if file input equals count. That's weird. Object reference. Okay, so we get an error here. So I guess it's still set to 1. Yeah, regardless of me saying it's equal to null after. dot items dot mm, dot remove we can try to access the index, I guess. So drag and drop a file in there, remove it, then try to drop another file, no error, and try to execute that. There you go. Okay, so that works fine, and we can try it one more time just to test it. Remove that file, and then drag another one, execute that one. Yeah. So what this code is doing is we're just removing the file path, which is the pretty much the string. If you remember, it is the string conversion of the first element of the list box, and file input items are removed 0. We're removing the first element from file input. Yeah. Alright, I'm back. So go ahead and go to your toolbox and look for a text box. It can be a rich text box or text box. I like a rich text box. And actually look for a panel also. And I'll tell you what this does in a second. And make the panel make it pretty large. Around, yeah, something like that. And when you start this, it might not look good. I'll fix that later. And then put your rich text box inside of your panel. And make the rich text box just a small amount shorter than your panel. And I'll show you that why in a second. Make it shorter on all sides, just a small amount. So what a panel is gonna allow you to do is gonna, when I put my, oh, okay, don't do that. So we don't want that there at all. Oh, okay. So I just deleted everything because I control Z. Okay, do not control Z. I'm just gonna make another one super fast. Panel. That's weird. Okay, make that decently large. So the reason I'm saying make your, or let me explain the panel first. What a panel is gonna allow the user to do is they're gonna be able to actually scroll down, because this is where the input of the monitoring is gonna go. So the host indicators are gonna go here, and it's gonna get pretty long. So they're gonna have to scroll down with their mouse scroll bar. So a panel is gonna allow them to do that. You can actually scroll down on the text box if it's inside of the panel. And the reason I'm making the text box a little smaller is so the input doesn't go inside. It looks, you'll see in a second. So make your text box and go to its properties and make sure you name it something good. I'm just gonna name this host output, or I'll just name it output. Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna make another function, and I'm gonna make this below. I'm gonna call this private async void begin, and actually this, yeah, no, begin monitoring, or just monitor. Yeah, monitor. This is what's gonna capture the host indicators and whatnot. We'll use, okay, I don't know what it's complaining about. That doesn't matter though. So this is just a regular function. It's not a button or anything. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to pretty much monitor the file as it's in a process. So as it's running, as it's in memory and executing. And actually, go ahead and make another button. go to your toolbox, button, and I guess just call this. Actually, you know what? No, we don't want it a button. We'll just run it uh, as soon as the file executes. So we're gonna call this function in the execute file function, and it's gonna run asynchronously, so we can actually monitor that on a separate thread. So what we want to do is we want to actually try to. No, I believe it's just try. Yeah. So we want to actually try to monitor that file. Let me think of how to do this. So try. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. So yeah. So the monitor, and actually, I'm gonna call this monitor file because that sounds better. So we want to actually try to capture. So yeah. So go ahead and do try. Actually, no. Go up here and define a boolean. Under the boolean, say private bool. Now let's call this capturing. And we want to just initialize that to true. Or actually, no. Just private bool capturing is equal to false. So nope. Nope. That should be. Let's try true for now. Let's try true. If it doesn't work, we'll see. So then we want this to be in a while loop. I'm gonna say while capturing is equal to true. And I know this is looking a little nested. It's gonna get worse, trust me, but it's fine. And we want to make a list of. Wait, actually, we don't even have that yet. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So if you go to Firefox, my first step in this is I want to capture the child processes, pretty much, of the process. Because remember what I said at the beginning of the video, that these processors. What the hell is this? Okay, whatever. These processes are gonna make child processes, and in order for the malware to execute further. So I searched up how to see what child processes a process is running. C# WinForms. The first time I actually searched this up, I immediately found this. This is actually it's very good. So you just want to copy this, and you want to paste it above the namespace. Oof, and manage object searcher. Okay, so go to your project and properties, or not properties, sorry, oops. How do I close this? Okay, just, yeah, X out of it. Go to here, click add, go to reference, yeah, that's what it was. Go to assembly and look for management, yeah, system management. And you want to just click that square button and click OK. And you want to say using system dot management, and this error should go away. Yeah. Hey, sorry. So this part is kind of all ChatGPT, but I can explain it pretty well. All this is doing is all this part is doing is when this method is called, it's accessing these parameters right here: command line, process name, process ID, and it's pretty much getting the output of those, I believe. And this should be an list, and it's still giving an error, which is odd. Maybe this should just be process. Okay, there. No, what? Let's give me an error still. Let me try copy pasting from this page. Oh wait. Oh wait, this isn't process. Okay. Process. I am sorry. So that should be, there you go. Okay. So no more errors. This is fine. Uh so this part is from Stack Overflow, but this part is from ChatGPT. We're just using this method to call these parameters. And all this is doing is it's selecting from when process where parent process ID equals blah blah blah, and it's getting us the child processes. It's getting us the name of that child process, and command line is pretty much all processes and commands executed within that child process. So yeah, if you're confused, you can go on Firefox and search how to get child processes. Actually, I just showed that. I forgot what I cut out. Sorry. And go ahead and minimize everything so it looks better. Um, except monitor file. So what we want to do here is we want to pretty much monitor the file, and what we can do is, so go ahead and make a iList. If you don't know what an iList is, just hover over it. It's just how do I explain this better? Let me see, iList. Non-generic collection of objects. That's a, yeah, I guess just a collection of objects. Yeah, sorry, I'm not too good at explaining. So we want to make an iList of process info, and if you remember, process info is this method. And what this is doing is, because there's going to be multiple child processes created within our main process, the malware file we are monitoring is going to open multiple child processes, so we have to make a list. And if you don't know, C# actually has a lot of these lists, like list. You can make like a list int. You can make like a string list or whatever. But we're just making iList, which is just a collection of objects. I'm assuming I actually played around like an hour with it. I'm assuming it's because it's just automatically defined, or if it's for processes. But we're gonna make iList process info, so it's gonna be a list of these processes up here, and we're just gonna say we're gonna call our child processor with info. We're gonna say this get child process with info. Uh, wait, what am I doing? Wait, no. This should have. Wait, no. Yeah, child processes. Sorry, I don't know what that was. So child processes. You can call it whatever you want, and we're gonna run this in the background. So await task dot or await task dot run, and do that brackets, and make sure you end this here so it doesn't give off any warnings. Okay, I guess it's not there. Whatever, we'll do that in a second. And what we want to do is we want to return file exec, and we want to call our get child process with info. Returns void. Maybe it's that. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. No more errors. So this is just making a list. We're using child process as the name of that process info list, and we are just returning that file executed, the malware file, the file input that the user inputs, remember, in the list box, and it's just over and over again calling get child process with info, which is public, so we're allowed to access it regardless of it being outside of this class. Yeah, so pretty much it's just looping and it's just over and over again. It's returning that that file with its um, child processes, its command, and whatever. Now go ahead and make we're gonna make a string builder. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a string builder. It's just it's an object that's gonna have strings built into it over and over again, and we're gonna call this output text is equal to, I'm gonna say, new string builder. Yeah, and you want to say for each. It's basically a for loop. It's just a different name. For each variable, whatever you named yours, child process. So for each child process, um, and for each child process, I'm sorry, for each child process in child processes, we're gonna actually, let me think. Mm, hmm. Actually, let's define a. No, 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 no. I don't think we need to do that. Yeah. So we want to just do output text dot append, or sorry, append line, I believe. So we're gonna append line, do a dollar sign, and then open quotes. Um, if you don't know what this dollar sign is gonna allow us to do, is it's like Python, you know. In I don't remember what it is in Python, but we're gonna be able to write strings and use these curly brackets to call on methods and variables. So we just want to say, I guess, ID, the child ID is going to be the child process dot process ID. So we're getting that child process ID, um, and you want to say name, the process name. And remember, this is all here: process ID, process name. We're just accessing those things, and the reason we're able to access them from child process is because if you remember, we have a list of pretty much child processes. And we want to say name is gonna be, and actually, if you like, you can just make a, nah, just leave that for like that right now. I'm gonna say name. I'm gonna say child process dot process name, and um, what else is there? Oh yeah, commands executed. Sorry, commands or commands slash started processes. Commands executed slash started processes, and we want to do child process dot command line, I believe. Yeah, command line. And I'm not gonna go down a line. Actually, yeah, I will. So it looks nicer. What is it complaining about? Oh yeah, expected a. Where is that? Okay, so this should be here. Catch. Okay, catch. Nope, that's not what I want to do. What? What? Why is it doing that? Okay, that's weird. Maybe it should be down here. Let's do null exception, null reference exception point, and put capturing to false or something. Yeah, okay, that works fine. And let me think. What have I not done? Oh yeah, I haven't actually. Okay, so now that our string builder output text is being filled up, we can actually go ahead and um, input to our output rich text box, if you remember from earlier. I believe. Okay, it's gonna show us an error right now. I'll just explain why. But you want to say dot append and or no output dot append text. Yeah, and we want to just output. Okay, so output text isn't working. Maybe there should be a bracket above. Yeah. So let's see. Why is that there? Yeah, there you go. And that's not working. Cannot convert string builder to. Okay. Okay, we'll just convert it to a string then. To a string. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna show what this looks like right now. Wow. Okay. So, oof. I don't know what happened. Close that page. Run the debugger again. Host indicator page. Okay. So if you remember, actually, from a few videos back with our sample malware, I made a sample malware, and believe it or not, I actually made it for a reason. So if you didn't watch that, you should watch it. But go to your, where is it? Okay, users, yourself. Go to source repos, and then the malware you made. Mine, if you remember, I named it malware for analysis. Um, and you can go to the debug version. That's what I'm gonna do right now. And I'm gonna drag and drop that file in there. Um, and if you remember, this was a reverse shell. Okay, nothing is working. That's Windows for you. Okay. So I'm gonna make a listener in order for this to function normally, and I'm gonna execute that file. Oh, wait a minute. Oops, I completely forgot to actually. Sorry, I actually completely forgot to call this. Sorry, completely forgot to. Yeah. So we want to actually call the monitor file function. Um, after the execute file button is pressed. So as soon as that button is pressed, it starts monitoring. Then you want to just call the function normally. Oh, yeah. And we could just make this a one-liner, but I won't because it looks nicer. So run it in debug mode again. Go ahead and drop that file in there. Start your listener. Which one is the listener? Okay, that's the listener. And cat-l4455 execute file. Okay, so I have an error. It says control output access from a thread other than the thread it was created on. Okay, that's odd. So maybe we'll just, instead of that, We'll just run it normally, maybe. Hopefully it doesn't give an error. Okay, so it's still giving an error. It's saying cross-thread operation not valid. Okay, I'll be back. I'm gonna fix this. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Um, Apparently it's because the output or rich text box, which we called output, is actually it's made on the main thread. So when we try to access it on a different thread, I guess it doesn't work. So um, I asked ChatGPT for help. And we're using the invoke. And what the invoke is gonna do is it's gonna invoke this action, and it's gonna run it on the main thread because output was created on the main thread, so pretty much runs on the main thread. And as you can see, this says execute the specified delegate on the thread that owns the control's underlying window handle. So output and invoke required. It gates a value indicating whether the caller must call an invoke method when making method calls to the control. So it's basically just if it's on a different thread, which was our error. So this is checking for our error, and it's doing that pretty much. And actually, we can even Google this. What does Firefox it? What does invoke do in C# when forms? If it finds a control or form that has a window handle, if the current under doesn't exist yet. See, I can't even explain it myself. We're gonna try to ask ChatGPT, I guess. Unable to load. Okay. Now ChatGPT, it is as confident in incorrect answers as correct answers, but is invoking output. Okay, that's not working. Is used to marshal the update to control on the UI thread. When invoke, it means that the method is not running on the UI thread, and therefore you need to use to perform the UI update on the main. Yeah, I'm sorry if it's not a super good explanation, but yeah. And actually, let me show what this looks like right now. So if you remember in our malware, I had it execute an NSLOOKUP command. So I'm gonna show what that looks like right now. So go to your user, whoever that may be. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Then go to your source, repos, go to the malware from last video, which was called malware 4 analysis. I'm just uploading the debug one, doesn't matter. And when I click execute file, as you can see, we can actually scroll up and down with the panel. It's not good right now. I'll fix that in a second. And sorry, let me do that again so we can actually see the NSLOOKUP command. So stop debugging, run it again. Actually, I have an idea. Okay, so came up with the idea. So we have the problem where it's just showing everything like a million times. So maybe we can just make it show once. And one way we can do that is sorry, I have a bunch of stuff open in the background. One way we can do that is actually go to where you made all your private methods. We're gonna make a private hash set of integers, and we're gonna say unique process IDs. um, is equal to new hash set int. What a hash set is, it's essentially just it's just a unique array of whatever you specify. So integer, this is going to be a unique array of integers, and it's going to be stored in there. So in our monitor file method, yeah, in our monitor file method, while it's doing the for each loop, we can say if not unique process IDs dot contains the child process dot process ID, and if it doesn't contain that, we're gonna go ahead and append that in that. So this means if that process ID, if the process ID, if a process ID is already appended to the rich text box, it's not gonna append this entire thing again. So it's not gonna just continue showing the same process over and over again. And I'm gonna show what that looks like right now. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna show what that looks like right now. Go ahead, run it in debug mode. Go ahead and drop that file in there, execute it. Okay, that's odd. Okay, it's fine. So there's no netcat listener. It's not gonna continue running. I'll fix it in a second. But as you can see, the nslookup example.com in the malware that we wrote is showing here. And you can see the process it's in. It's opening a command cmd.exe, a command prompt, and it's executing the nslookup.com. So that's a host indicator, and then it's stopping running. So if we're a malware analyst, we can say, okay, so it's doing nslookup example.com, and then it's stopping. So this could be an indicator that the malware is doing a DNS lookup, but it's actually failing. So yeah, and I'm gonna actually, let me see if I can fix this right now. If not, the process ID Pentex. Maybe let's put this here. Now let's stop that. And then try it again. Okay, that's weird. It's the same process ID. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, sorry, I just realized what it was. So put that back down here. It's because I'm not actually adding. Yeah, you can see it's literally telling us exactly what to do. So it's because I'm not adding that process ID into unique process IDs. And you could actually just you could just make this a normal array. I mean, it would work just fine with the normal integer array, but I thought a hash set is a little cooler. So I'll show what this looks like right. Okay. So run it in debug mode, same thing. Host indicators page. Oh, what am I doing? Okay. And you see everything started is only showing up once now. So you see the different child processes that are being made, the different process IDs. You see nslookup.example.com, and then it's just completely stopping. And actually, I'm gonna show something else too. Okay, it just stopped again, but whatever. So open a command prompt and make a listener. Go ahead and run the malware analysis application. Drag and drop, execute file. So now here's what this might look like. So go to where your netcat listener is. Now some commands won't show. Like if I do ipconfig I was wrong. ipconfig does in fact show. Maybe who am I? Yeah. So some commands just don't show. It depends on the command. Like SSH, for example. SSH, it's a process. So when you do SSH, it will show. But if I do something like, and actually, hold on. So I'm gonna cd into c um, users. I'm gonna go into myself. I'm gonna go into my OneDrive, and I'm gonna go into my desktop. So I'm gonna just open a file, and maybe I'll do PowerShell start bits transfer dash source, a fake IP address, maybe HTTP, and I accidentally just deleted that. Okay, so do PowerShell start bits transfer dash source. This is what an attacker might use. An attacker is gonna actually be able to execute. Is gonna be able to actually download a file from the internet using something like this. Obviously, this won't work right now. So no, this is great. I believe this is very great. You're able to see most general commands that an attacker is going to execute in a reverse shell. So if we're monitoring this here, we see our first host indicator. It's an nslookup example.com, and then they're running ipconfig. The attacker is SSHing somewhere. The attacker is starting a process, and whenever a process is started, it's always going to be able to get what process that is. So if I start like tcp vcon.exe, we'll be able to see that. We'll always be able to see what processes they start. You see PowerShell start bits transfer, so we can kind of monitor what the attacker is doing if it's a reverse shell. Even if it's not a reverse shell, we're able to get so many host indicators. Now, if our malware was copying itself somewhere or running any system commands, we'd actually be able to see those. So I think this is very great. So yeah, this is just capturing host indicators. Um, and I guess for now we're done. And maybe in a future video I will make updates. I'll make it look nicer. But I think I'm gonna. I'll see in a second. But if this video ends, then I'm moving on to the TCP, the network monitoring part.